Steam is far more than just a platform. It's honestly the beating heart of PC gaming as a whole. I mean, if it wasn't for Steam, PC gaming really wouldn't be what it is today, and it would probably be owned by Meta. For countless gamers, including myself, Steam is just the launcher you open without a second thought. It's become as natural and essential as just turning on your computer itself, and it's likely the first thing you'll install if you're building a new PC. But just imagine for a moment that this colossal titan of modern gaming that we all love almost never existed. There was a time when Steam teetered dangerously close to oblivion. This is the story of that near-death experience. This is Nick, and welcome back to Nick Flip. The early 2000s marked a golden age for Valve. Valve had already revolutionized gaming with Half-Life, which, probably don't have to tell you this by now, it was a first-person shooter that broke every gaming mold at the time. Half-Life wasn't merely a game about guns and monsters. It was a masterclass in storytelling, combining cinematic narrative with deeply immersive gameplay mechanics. Players weren't just shooting targets, they were becoming part of a living, breathing world where every corner might tell a story. Gabe Newell literally just said, yo, what if Doom had like a plot? And then, out of nowhere, came Counter-Strike. Originally a grassroots mod for Half-Life created by dedicated fans that exploded overnight into a multiplayer sensation that we know it as today, with the quite flawed CS2. But it wasn't casual or aimless. It was competitive, tactical, and deeply team-oriented. Suddenly, Valve wasn't just a game developer. It was the owner of a juggernaut built on gaming innovation and community passion. Yet beneath this dazzling success lay a gnawing problem. The process of patching and updating games was broken beyond repair. At the time, players bought physical copies of games, like discs or CDs, that, to be frank, rarely updated automatically. When Valve released patches for Half-Life or Counter-Strike, which they did quite often, chaos followed quite quickly. Players with mismatched versions found themselves unable to connect to multiplayer servers, which frequently crashed under the strain. Frustration mounted on both ends, with developers scrambling to fix issues and gamers caught in a patchwork nightmare. And Valve needed to act quickly, or else everything was destined to collapse under the sheer weight of it all. The way Valve responded to this was nothing short of revolutionary. Build their own digital platform that could automate patch delivery and eliminate the headaches once and for all. This platform, which, as you can already probably tell, is called Steam. Steam's initial mission was straightforward: automate patching so players wouldn't have to think about updates. But early Steam was far from perfect. The client was buggy, sluggish, and prone to crashes that left users frustrated and confused. People hated having to install extra software just to play games they already owned. It seemed for many like a frustrating barrier to the gaming experience they came to know and love. Valve, however, stood firm. They believed deeply that digital distribution was the future of PC gaming, that the convenience, control, and accessibility it offered would revolutionize the industry forever. Steam wasn't just a patching tool, it was a first glimpse of a new era, a vision for what gaming could become. And Valve was willing to weather the storm of criticism and technical growing pains to get there. Then came 2004, the year everything nearly fell apart. Half-Life 2 was Valve's crown jewel, and it was the most anticipated game of the decade. To protect their vision and ensure quality, Valve made a daring and divisive decision. No matter how you purchased Half-Life 2, whether retail disc, digital pre-order, or boxed copy, you had to launch it through Steam. Steam was no longer just a patching tool, it was the exclusive gateway to Valve's flagship title. Launch day arrived amid enormous hype, and millions of eager players poured in to authenticate and start the game simultaneously. You could probably see how this is gonna go horribly wrong. Steam servers buckled under the unprecedented weight. Authentication servers crashed repeatedly, and countless players found themselves locked out of a game they had waited years to play. Valve, once hailed as a gaming hero, suddenly found itself the target of bitter anger and disbelief. Half-Life 2 had drained the company's resources, and development had consumed years and countless man-hours. And Steam's infrastructure was an expensive gamble that hadn't yet paid off. Gabe Newell, Valve's CEO, as you probably know that by now, faced immense pressure. Rumors circulated that he considered selling his own house just to keep the company afloat. The company was balancing on a knife's edge: survival or collapse, victory or ruin. But the technical crisis was only half the battle. A far more ruthless challenge was lurking in the shadows. Vivendi Universal, the massive French media conglomerate that had acquired Sierra, Valve's former publisher, wasn't ready to concede control quietly. They launched a brutal legal offensive against Valve, claiming breach of contract and accusing Valve of illegally distributing Counter-Strike in South Korean internet cafes without their permission. Valve countered with its own suit, accusing Vivendi of violating contracts and attempting to wrest control of Valve's intellectual property. What began as a business dispute escalated into a full-blown legal war that threatened to engulf the company entirely. The courtroom quickly turned into a battlefield. Vivendi's legal team unleashed an avalanche of discovery documents, millions of pages of paperwork, nearly all written in Korean. Valve's comparatively tiny legal team was unsurprisingly overwhelmed, with no Korean speakers on staff able to decipher this mountain of dense technical documents that had been laid out in front of them. Legal fees skyrocketed and deadlines loomed. Valve was under a lot of pressure, and their future hung precariously in the balance. Amid this storm might be the greatest one-guy story of all time. One guy, by the name of Andrew, stepped forward. A lowly summer intern and Korean studies major at UCLA, Andrew was tasked with the tedious and exhausting job of sorting through the dense legal paperwork. But despite this, Andrew threw himself into a grueling slog of reading, scanning, and cross-referencing. Days and nights blurred together as he hunted desperately for anything that might help Valve turn the tide. Then, after relentless effort, Andrew struck gold. Hidden deep within the pages was a bombshell email chain between Vivendi executives, written in Korean, containing a chilling line. Destroyed the Valve documents, like you asked. It was a smoking gun, an explicit admission of deliberate evidence tampering, and a confession of fraud and obstruction of justice. Valve's lead counsel, Carl Quackenbush, seized on this evidence with surgical precision. The judge, stunned by Vivendi's misconduct, swiftly turned the tide decisively in Valve's favor. Vivendi's entire case collapsed under the weight of its own deceit and dishonesty. The ruling protected Valve's intellectual property, secured Steam's future, and cleared the path for Half-Life 2 to finally launch without further legal entanglements. Thanks to Andrew's sharp eyes, Valve survived its darkest hour. With the legal nightmare behind them, Valve poured its energy into fixing Steam's technical problems. The company rebuilt server infrastructure from the ground up, expanded capacity drastically, improved authentication systems, and finally delivered Half-Life 2 smoothly to millions of eager players. Over the following years, Steam grew beyond all expectations. It evolved into a sprawling marketplace, a vibrant community hub, and a place where players, developers, and publishers connected in ways never before possible. Steam pioneered innovations that would soon become industry standards. User reviews, community forums, automatic updates, and an intuitive storefront that made finding games simple and enjoyable. It became the first place millions turned to for new releases or just rediscovering classics. But this transformation wasn't overnight. Smaller developers found in Steam a platform that allowed them to reach global audiences directly, launching games without the need for physical discs or giant marketing budgets. Steam sales became cultural phenomena, driving massive spikes in gaming activity and revenue worldwide. The entire gaming industry shifted dramatically. Digital distribution moved from niche experiment to dominant model. Publishers, both big and small, were forced to adapt, and gamers gained unprecedented access to an ever-expanding universe of games, old and new alike. Yet, despite all this success, it's easy to forget how fragile it all once was. The initial launch disaster, the harrowing legal battles that followed, and the technical failures. Any one of these alone could have ended Steam before it ever really truly began. The PC gaming landscape today might look completely different if Valve hadn't persevered through those dark days. Steam didn't just survive because of technology or business strategy. It survived because of people. The tireless engineers who rebuilt servers under immense pressure, the loyal fans who stuck with a rocky platform, and the unnoticed heroes like Andrew, the intern who found the smoking gun that saved the company. Every time you open Steam or dive into a sale, remember that fragile moment when the platform almost died and remembered the unsung hero who made sure it didn't happen. This is the story of the day Steam almost died, and how that day shaped the future of gaming forever.